So how do we bring agriculture and re-engage the youth and use hemp? Well, kids can grow their own school. They can harvest in 180 days is what I've learned, and then start learning to mix lime, which they have access to lime because they build pit latrines, and those pit latrines, they dump lime in it. So looking to see what resources they have available. And so, yeah, they can grow their own school starting in 180 days. Then they can make that into a business.
Hey guys, it's Mandi with Global Hemp Association. I wanted to say thank you so much for joining. I'm excited about the opportunity to build a relationship and connect this supply chain. I mean, after all, that's why we started the association. Our association was built on the foundation of connecting supply chain, building relationships, and helping you grow your business. Anyone from farmers, manufacturers, and distributors, people that are passionate about the supply chain, and those creating products selling into biofuels, plastics, textiles, construction, and building materials.
And we're live.
Yeah.
That worked out perfect. I love those little commercials.
That is fascinating. Did you put that together?
No, I've got a team that helps me that's incredible.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah,
I was just smiling the whole way through. I'm like, wow, I need something like this too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can introduce you. So I can't connect you to them. But welcome, everybody. As you're joining, please let us know where you're at. I'm going to ask again and shout it out a couple of times, but please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We get a lot of viewers that are not subscribed, and so we want to increase our subscribers so we can open up more doors and opportunities to chat and communicate and things like that. And of course, be able to monetize our YouTube channel. So I'm pretty excited. We're really, really freaking close. So if you're not subscribed, Natasha, go do that. But I don't know, but I'm going to tell you.
I thought I was.
You probably are. So welcome. I'm really glad to be here today. It's almost the weekend and it's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
I know, I'm really excited. I didn't think that I would be. I've kind of dreaded this birthday for like 29 years. So
29 years and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Over and over and over again. But I'm really excited. My kids are going to come out and we're going to go to lunch and do some fun stuff and take the rest of the afternoon off. And that's
what's your favorite birthday? Do you have a birthday meal?
No.
I like tacos.
Okay.
But it's tacos every day for me. So
I like that too. Well, before we go any further, you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Natasha? I'm excited to have you on. Tell me a little bit and tell everybody else a little bit. What are you working on and how did you get into this space that you're in now?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So my name's Natasha Wallace, and I am the founder of the Boom Project, Agriculture with a Purpose. And I basically, how I found myself in this, it kind of found me. But I had started visiting Uganda as part of a missionary team. And we were working with communities in Eastern Uganda. Which is about 8 hours from the main capital city. So they're far away from resources. And when we look at agriculture, even the extension services are not, connected with our communities. We grow coffee. That's one of the major assets, but they also grow a lot of other stuff. But seeing that the communities are still in poverty, really, it stirred my heart, and just in a transitional place in my life and feeling called to spend less time in the corporate America world, which has been a blessing for me. I've learned so much, but to be able to give back and just continuing to go back and forth to Uganda. And also inspired by a family friend who was working in Central America with coffee farmers and seeing the progress that they had made. They were buying the coffee. They weren't necessarily doing anything that would help build the agriculture practices other than investing into the community to do that themselves. I decided that we've got to find a way to make these communities sustainable. Every 3 Ugandans that make it out of poverty, 2 fall back in. And in surveying that and thinking about it, I'm like, well, why do they keep falling back into poverty? And then my brain started clicking with the work that I've been doing the last 20 years in the financial services industry and banking, where the regulators were coming in and just constantly fining banks for issues that were reoccurring. And the regulators got smart and said, okay, banks, we found this issue again. Why? Why are you not sustainable? And so I started kind of thinking about those concepts. And when I looked at it deeper, they don't have jobs. So they don't have a way to make income to grow. And in looking at that, first of all, we wanted to focus on improving the quality of what they're growing in their community so they can get a better price at the market. And that requires education, and then good access to good resources, and then oversight to make sure they're retaining it and it's sticking. And then I got to thinking, well, their diets are horrible. They don't have access to, a lot of food. And so how can we scale and diversify what they're doing? And I was like, well, that still doesn't solve the problem for being sustainable. It kind of puts a Band-Aid on things. And I got to thinking about, well, we need to create more jobs in the community. And I first was going down the path of coffee. We would increase local consumption. They would then learn how to roast and barista and start coffee houses. They're getting access to the grid, internet cafes. And then I was scrolling and I saw an approval for cannabis for Uganda had been legalized there in 2020. And I was like, well, wait a second, cannabis, that could help with their health. And then I was like, started Googling, and I think that's about the time I started learning about Global Hemp Association or seeing something come through. And I started learning about all the different byproducts that were out there, hygiene products, hemp hearts. They're an awesome complement to my banana bread, and great nutrition. Then I started seeing things about hempcrete. And we're in mud huts, and they make bricks out of abandoned termite mounds. They use those as brick ovens to fire the bricks and harden them. But I'm like,
really?
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures. Okay. It's really fascinating how they use their local environment to be sustainable for just getting through survival. But I'm like, wow, they can go out of mud huts and into really stable homes, and it's fire retardant, it's mold resistant, which, living in a mud hut, it's moist in there. And then I got to thinking, well, wait, agriculture is kind of falling off the radar with the next generation. They're not inspired in Uganda because they've seen their families not get out of poverty doing it. So how do we bring agriculture and re-engage the youth and use hemp? Well, kids can grow their own school. They can harvest in 180 days is what I've learned, and then start learning to mix lime, which they have access to lime because they build pit latrines, and those pit latrines, they dump lime in it. So looking to see what resources they have available. And so, they can grow their own school starting in 180 days. Then they can make that into a business and start selling bricks. Families can rebuild their own home that's more sustainable, environmentally friendly, and
they can feed their people. They can feed their people.
They can feed, the children.
Animals, their livestock.
Absolutely. The livestock are lacking. We want to increase agriculture production as well as the livestock production as well, but we want to do it. Everything that we want to do from the lessons learned from the Western world. So while it's not a completely clean slate that we're starting with, it is somewhat of a blank slate that we can say, okay, now when you do this, you should not be doing this because this caused harm to the environment, or this impacted your diet by spraying, pesticides, and we'll use organic treatments. We're working in discussions with a company, OLS, about accessing some of their organic pesticides to see if it'll work on coffee, and then even all the other intercroppings that they grow there and things that we'll be adding. So
I have somebody to introduce you to for pesticides.
Sure.
Organic. Mm-hmm. He is so cool. Dirk and Chloe are their names. I think that is his last name, and it's Lost Coast Plant Therapy. I will send you. Yes, but they have a pesticide that dehydrates. I did a panel with them in Costa Rica. That's where I met them. And they were talking about their pesticide, and it dehydrates the bug, so the bugs don't become resistant to the pesticide, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's organic, and it can be used as a spray or a root drench, or I mean, like there's crazy results that they're seeing. And so I would love to, I'd love to introduce you to what just happens. It's something that comes up all the time, and as we're looking for better practices, like
sure.
And
yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So just again, when I talk about, and I think you shared with it in the introduction post, is that we have a framework for sustainability that, it's not perfect and it's going to continue to evolve. And I always welcome, absolutely love feedback and continuous learning for me. But basically, we want to be able to make sure that they're sustainable through following a process and measuring that. And so, it started with, connecting with the right people, connecting the government, people in the supply chain, even the community. You have to build relationships with them and get them to buy in. They're very resistant. They've kind of lost a lot of hope. And people have come in and then they've gotten let down. And so, but part of it too is a mindset change for them as well. So we're working on that. But relationships, building key relationships, strong, long lasting relationships, so that we know that they're going to be in it with us till the end. Then we want to educate through gap education, good agricultural practices. And then we want to provide quality resources. That includes certified seedlings. We want to have traceability. It'll position them to have a competitive advantage when they go to the global market. And then we want to focus on the risk oversight, proactive risk management, looking for pests and disease, quarantine when it happens, and even trying to be proactive in avoiding all of that. We think, from what I'm hearing, and I may be wrong, but this is why I'm at Global Hemp, is hemp, if it has some pest and disease resistance, could it be an out-of-the-box solution, or thinking out of the box, that it could potentially provide a barrier to the plants that are being grown in our communities? Coffee, the soya, the banana. We're going to eventually plant vanilla and cocoa. I don't know if that's something that it could help maybe provide a little bit of a barrier, but thinking at it from that perspective. Soil regeneration, again, that's important to us too. But back to the framework is that we want to provide that oversight, and that's where the big risk piece comes in, and measuring. Then scaling and diversifying, improving their ecosystem through adding different varieties of assets to what they're already growing. Hemp would be an addition. And then focusing on continuous improvement, looking back, lessons learned, and continuing to, grow from what we're doing. And so that's the framework that we've kind of outlined for sustainability. And as that applies to hemp, it's really looking at what we're learning here in the US and even other countries that have adopted it globally, how they're using it, and then implementing that in our communities to make them sustainable through basically creating job opportunities, helping them develop new trade skills through what they can, when they produce hemp or grow it, harvesting it, right? And then all the things that have to be put into place to make the byproducts for it. So when I read, it was on the internet, I don't know if it's an actual number, but there's an estimate of 50,000 different byproducts that hemp could make. Is that close enough?
Said products. I don't think it's that many, but
yeah,
we don't know, right? We're at the
it could be it's integrated into another product solution, so it's a secondary product,
right?
But if there's
like you said, you look at that downstream. It's like once we get processing up and running, and standard development, just imagine what we're going to start seeing.
Yeah. And so when I actually got the opportunity, and when I was back in Texas, to meet with King Oyo, who's the king of the western region of Uganda, and he is on a mission to improve agricultural production on the western side. There's a lot of focus on the west, and they have a lot of resources, but on the eastern side, which we border Kenya, it's not there yet, but it's happening. The government is focused on it. They're helping to get more resources out there. We've got them engaged in our communities. We met with them personally. But I told King Oyo, I said, look, if this is just layman's terms. If hemp could ideally make 50,000 byproducts, that's 50,000 new businesses that could be started in Uganda. Oh. And each business has 1 to 2 employees. So we're looking at 100 to 150,000 new jobs that can be created in the next year, very quickly. And he was, well, we didn't know that all of those byproducts could be made from hemp. That was our same discussion that we had with the Ministry of Agriculture, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, as well as the research, Nakori. And they were unaware of all the different byproducts that could be made. And so it really piqued their interest that we don't just need it for medicinal. We think that medicinal could just be a very small portion of what could help us improve our local economies. And so, again, we're here with Global Hemp to learn and see how we can start testing. Yeah. Someone, Richard Rose, I put a post out on U.S. Hemp Association on Facebook asking what potential varieties could be grown in Uganda. And someone, I think it was Richard Rose, mentioned to look at, is it called Kanef? Kanef. And so I'd like to learn more about that. And does it offer the same benefits that hemp could offer our communities? I do know that there is a large project in the west of Uganda. Again, they've legalized cannabis production there. And so they probably have some varieties. And so it's reconnecting with the government to see. It may still be kind of under lock and key right now, but we definitely want to find out. And we've got farmers in our communities. Actually, my board of director for my nonprofit in Uganda, we stood up a separate nonprofit to protect the mission and the funding. And so she is starting to research. So she's going to be our women's empowerment kind of coordinator and lead the hemp program rollout in our communities when that actually gets to happen. So she's very excited. I want to get her sponsored to get over here to see how things are going here in the US and learn and visit and see it live. But yeah, we're just very excited, and we just want to find out how we can start moving things forward. And we've got farmers with land that are willing to participate in a test, a pilot, as soon as we get the, I don't even know if we have to have the government's approval, considering that we're not growing it for medicinal, which is, I think there's about a $10 million trade license that you have to purchase to do that.
Holy moly. Surprising. Okay, so tell me about some of the biggest struggles, right? As we look at big scale, a lot of the conversation is like rotation crops. And I don't know that, it's necessarily long-term pest resistant, right? If we haven't had a crop, we haven't really, because we see what grasshoppers do. And there was a gentleman that we interviewed the other day that had 250 acres or 25 acres or maybe back, maybe even less. It may have been only like 2.5 acres, and the deer ate it all. And so things like that, right? That they have baboons. Yeah, right. And I would suspect they like it. If humans like it, I'm sure that they like it, right? Yeah. And so something to consider. And I know grasshoppers are a big problem, and
locusts also in East Africa, there, and especially out of Kenya, there's a big locust issue.
Yep. And so that's going to be something to consider, that we've got, that they love the flower. Fiber is a little bit different, right? When you're growing on the industrial scale. So my question then is, like, what are soil types? What's harvesting equipment? What's big agriculture or water look like over there? Yeah, I'd be interested. Exactly. So
it's still very, and some of our communities, it's not a concept or term used, but fourth world, not used often, right? And you don't really hear it. And when I heard it, I was like, what? But it's still very fourth world, very hunter and gatherers. They have limited access to water, while they do sit just north of Lake Victoria, which is the source of the Nile River. They have plenty of water that they can get. It's just getting it into the inland to access it. But there is access. We can drill wells, but that raises your cost, right? And some of the communities have wells. But the other thing is how much water does it need? They do have a rainy season, so you could be strategic with planting, and plant either, before or
Well,
after.
there's a lot of dry farmers, right?
Mhm.
It may not be the best crop result, but hemp is known to be drought resistant.
Yes.
Not obsolete of water, like some people say, right? But
Right.
it is better than in
Mhm.
swampy lands.
Well, and it's even thinking outside of the box. For example, World Coffee Research is developing hybrids that can be drought and pest resistant, and those are being released, in communities, especially in Africa. There's a lot of experimenting, and even some that are successful that are going to market as coffee byproducts. So that hybrid, that could be our communities. We have so much land, could become a research and development area as well to test different hybrids with that. And so that's another option. So I would say that's, the number one challenge is what variety is going to grow in the environment, specifically for the benefit that helps them with survivability and that can help them generate businesses to move them forward. So they can make clothing, they can make shoes, they need shoes, they need hygiene products, deodorant. The hempcrete, the animal feed would be huge. Their livestock is very skinny. There is such thing as a skinny cow, and it exists in Uganda. But it is definitely, I just see hemp being such a huge benefit to these most extreme impoverished communities in the world.
I 100% agree with you.
We've got plenty of hands and feet to do the manual processing. If it could provide jobs, then that could be done. But at some point, we would want to automate that or use some sort of equipment. I've seen the portable decorticators through like Hemp Train and a couple others. I think is it Hemp Train? It may be the one that's located in southern Colorado that's producing a portable decortication machine. And then just education on what they need. We would need people that would be willing to volunteer their time to come over and work with the communities. It's a really great place to visit too. The people are amazing and they're sponges. They want to learn. So yeah, I mean, those are some of the initial problems. It's going to be variety, finding the right variety. It's going to be, I would say scaling it too. I've read some articles on small shareholder cropping because that could be better to control certain risks. But again, there's just a lot of land that could be used to grow it.
How often are you over there?
Right now, once a year. It's been in the past and for a couple of weeks, but I'm going now probably, like I'll be there in June. I also have a full-time job that I do consulting on still. So I say full-time, it's a couple months on, a couple months off, and then I'll be in Uganda in between. But we've built a lot of good relationships there, and I have other NGOs that are helping me provide oversight and that are partnering with us. And so especially with COVID, we had to work remotely. And so it's been working for us. And I've built a good, trustworthy team as well. And so I'm definitely confident that I'm going to have to be here more than there to raise money and awareness and, get more resources to come over there. But definitely we've got a good team in place that are eager to learn and grow. But
pretty exciting.
Be there a couple times a year is the goal. And at some point, maybe half the year.
Yeah. Pretty humbling, I bet. I think that's what excites me the most about this plant, about the opportunities, is the impact it makes. And we're talking big problems when we talk about carbon sequestration and plastics and things like that. But what about the people and the food and the rural communities and the agriculture? And I think that's where, it's so impactful to be able to be. It's so rewarding, I guess. It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, the food wise, so there's with the next generation, more than half the generation is going to have stunted growth due to lack of nutrition. So we will have a large number of shorter Ugandans. And as it is for many developing countries that don't have access to nutrition, it impacts the quality of life. It impacts everything about, their growth process. The average, so for example, we're in the fourth world. We were making progress into the third world, and then COVID hit, and that sent them backwards significantly. And so we have issues with, I would say, a good percentage of our communities maybe get one meal a day. There's also a decent amount that maybe get 2 to 3 meals a week. And what they get is poshu, which is a maize mixture of, in the morning, it's a little bit thinner to be more of a porridge. And then in the afternoons, if they have that extra meal, then it's thickened. And then they use pinto beans to kind of top it off with. So it's a bland diet while they're getting some of it. Some nutrients, it's still not enough. We implemented a chicken project for 600 kids, and just one egg a week changed, like going back the next year, their skin looked better. They were starting to fill out. And it was just, it was a different sight. So just even a little bit is going to be a huge help. And if we can get them to start consuming it, mixing it in with their beans or mixing it in with the poshu, they're getting some additional nutrients. And and we can get creative with it, and they can start mixing it in their chapati, which is like a flat pancake, like naan that you would see in India, but it's chapati. In Uganda, they can start mixing in that as well too. That's a largely consumed meal when they get access to the flours. So
see, it's stuff like that. And then you go to, well, you can use hemp seed both for the human and our animal feed,
yes,
right? And it becomes then a healthier egg or a healthier chicken. Yes. Along, so then we're getting even more nutrients, more fatty acids, more fiber and protein. It frustrates me that we're dealing and still seeing these type of problems, and we've had hemp the whole time, right? That's what, when people say, well, it's such a new product, it's not new. We're new to it, right?
Yeah. Well, it seems like the other side of the world adopted it. For the most part, like Australia and those countries, it's like, it's there. We're just, we're not capitalizing on its potential either. But again, when I think about it's a double impact, it's killing two birds with one stone. You're changing the way that they can access nutrition, and have things for basic survivability. They don't have soaps, so getting them access to hygiene products, the nutrition and the hempcrete, but at the same time, you're creating jobs. You're spurring them to develop their own brands and their own products, triggering a local economic boom.
Yeah, totally. Like the skill piece.
And the environment.
Yeah. And that's really like the sugar on top, right? That's what comes by these good practices, by being able to take care of our people that then in turn. I agree. So I want to real quick give a shout out before we go on.
Sure.
John has some great product. He said our smart box machine will convert hemp into pellets, hurd, flour, beef, and bioplastic industry. Key for bioplastic industry, biochar, wood, vinegar, and most importantly, run itself on biochar furnace for diesel generator. Biochar, I think, is something else that's really, I hear over and over and over again in these conversations about the
fuel is what's interesting with this, because basically deforestation is a huge issue. And if they can grow hemp as a source of fuel, we're replacing their other source of fuel, and avoiding the cutting down the trees, but also cooking. I mean, they still live off of wood burning stoves. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and then I read something the other day, or heard something the other day, that was a really cool. One of the guys had an invention or a project that they support. It's like a fire when they cook over there. They're cooking over wood burning stoves and fire, so they're inhaling. So babies are getting sick and the women are getting sick, and so it's pretty cool. They had created a pot that you put your big pot in, and it almost is like a crock pot for a wood, like for a real stove, right?
Yeah.
But it was like a pot that then they heated the coals up, put the pot inside this bag, and then it cooked all day for them. So now the women freed up all their day to be able to be efficient and do things.
Yeah, we did similar. It's called a rocket stove, and it's made from bricks. But it turned into be like a brick oven too, that kept the coals burning or the wood burning longer. And so again, we were trying to reduce that, having to cut down more trees. But yeah, I think, those kind of solutions are awesome. And again, lessons learned. If we can avoid anything that's going to be a negative impact to them as we think about developing new processes for them and new ways to do things, that we're doing it responsibly. And that's where I'm saying, we want to take the lessons learned from the Western world, which seems to have we seem to have the biggest impact on our health with everything else chemical, but and applying that to their knowledge and skill set, because they literally are starting from scratch in most cases.
And that's such a mindset that I don't think a lot of American business has, right? It's like, we're talking about like big scale, $20 million investments to build huge processing so that because our farmers also have large equipment and big scale agriculture, right? Where really in Africa, it's going to be a much different approach.
Yep.
Not understanding, or I guess understanding that you're not an expert, right, in hemp, right? How do you project best rollout of a program like this to be sustainable and successful for those small communities?
I mean, I think we have to start small first, using that framework, and then as we test it, I think also it's going to be making sure we're prepared with the right people involved, the right seed variety, the soils ready, all of that. So we have to be very diligent in planning what the requirements are going to be, limit the scope, and then see how it goes, and then scale smallly over time. I mean, this is not a program that's going to launch next week. It could take several years. But given that we have knowledge of its success and we know it can do things like make hempcrete, it can provide nutritional value to the diets. It can provide a soap product. It can, be used as biochar. We could accelerate a little bit faster knowing these, but it's really in the environment that we're working in. Will all of this still work? And that's, again, starting small and, assessing each step of the way, measuring it and making sure that we're getting results. If not, taking the step back and going back to the drawing board. But just being very cautious and also proactive and very diligent in planning for something like this.
Absolutely. And I like the idea of the small, right? And really, it's going to take a while to scale up. Soybean corn took a long time. Soybean was something like 40 years before it became mainstream, right? So we've got to understand time, but I think immediately doing trials, like putting a small amount of seeds in the ground. Right. Let's see what it does there. Let's monitor it and get you some good trials. And I'm confident that there are people doing this. It's just a matter of where are they, right? And so what I'd love to collect with you on is I know off the top of my head 5 or 6 people on our platform that are actively involved over there. And that's just who I know right off the top of my head. And so let's get into there and I'll make some intros for you and really see what they're doing. Because I know there's a lot of money moving in for agriculture and for the agro-tourism and things like that to grow Africa and grow, but I don't know where or what regions necessarily where other people on my team will. Right?
I know there's some work going on, some ideas in Malawi as well on a large, commercial hemp and even cannabis operation around the Cape Fear project. I've read something about that and connected with the ambassador from Malawi. But and we've got interest too with us coming into Burundi. I know you've connected with Perky. Perky's connected with Rudy, which is out of Ghana. I've got interest in India. I've got interest in Thailand, Tanzania. There's plenty of options to try, even experimenting through different soil types, through different countries, different parts, places, away from the equator, within each different, time zone, we can go there with it. But definitely thinking that trials would be awesome for us. And I even think too, if we could, and if people were up for it, dedicate some land through our farmers for experimenting with different varieties in our communities too. Uganda's got decent soil. I think there's a lot of, the soil has opportunities for improvement, but it's still decent soil. And it grows stuff. And when you look in our communities, you see like a lot of healthy plants. And you can see where there's not healthy plants, but some of that, when you look closely, it's bad agricultural practices. They just don't know how to do it and do it right. And so some of it is even just helping to educate them on just the GAP practices in general, and you'll see improvements. But we're hoping that hemp could even be planted and improve our soil too, where there are deficiencies.
I was just going to say that, right? That its root structure is known to be incredibly powerful for revitalizing that soil, right? And bringing the nutrients and microbes. Yeah. And so one thing I'm really excited to learn more about is the increased yields on rotations and what it's doing to, barren lands to be able to be, viable again and fruitful again. And so that's where I would really like to look, is not just what we can do with hemp, but what hemp's opportunity is on a rotation, or as we add for regenerative practices, and we're bringing in multiple crops onto the same land because of its soil nutrition after.
Sure. Yeah. And that's something we could do. Even we do the intercroppings. Some of them are permanent, like bananas, but the soya and pinto, that stuff is less, more seasonal, I think. And so we would be able to potentially intercrop with hemp in our coffee communities, assuming that the plants would get along with each other. But it could offer certain benefits to the coffee tree as well. If it can help improve the soil, that's a win. Second of all,
I'd be interested though, because coffee you don't cut down or pull out. I mean, it's a tree, right? And it's planted pretty close together.
Well, we're about to undergo a very large stumping project because a lot of Uganda's coffee trees are old and they're past their prime, or they've just not been maintained very well. And too wild of a coffee tree obviously inhibits the production of that tree. But definitely there's a lot of opportunity to reduce and stump down these trees and re-trigger their growth process. There's going to be replacing of trees with the hybrids as well. And so, but I think, one of the things that coffee needs in some regions is shade. But do they need it full time? Possibly not. But they also have to have sun to grow as well. But I was just trying to play around with the thought of, could we intercrop with hemp, and it provides the partial shade that's needed. And then it's harvested, and just to see and experiment what it does to the soil and to the coffee plant. And even if it has that pest control capabilities, can it help there too? Maybe. It's all experimental right now and understanding it. So
I get it. Okay, so what's something that to our listeners and people that are really interested in coming over to Africa and really supporting the project, how do people get in touch, and what do you need as an organization as far as connections or resources?
Sure. So we do have a website, Boon, BOON, agriculture.org, and we are a nonprofit, a 501c3 public charity. We've also established a second nonprofit in Uganda, again, to protect the mission and the funding. And we've got legal representation there also to protect us as well. But, some of the things that we need, in connecting with us, it's really partnering and volunteering. I've gotten a lot of people that would love to help. And as consultants, we're just not there with funding yet. If you know of how to get access to grants that would be interested in a project like this, then that would be something we could designate as a part of that grant in the time that's spent there. But, one of the things that Boone is about is really empowering people and loving others out of the kindness of your heart. That's what I'm doing. I don't get paid for anything that I do with the Boone Project. I don't reap any benefits. There may be some benefits for me in the future with starting my own hemp business or sourcing materials from them. But again, this is really just a way to kind of pay it forward or just help improve the quality of lives for other people. And so education, coming over there, helping them learn about it, even sponsoring them back here. If you have a hemp business here and you see that there could be ways for them to come here and learn, is sponsoring that individual to come here and learn. Seed donations, if you have different varieties that you think could be grown in their environment, we can get soil samples and provide that back. But seed donations for trials would be great as well too. And then byproduct developers. That's really the biggest goal here is, we want hemp to improve the environment. We want hemp to improve their quality of life, but we want it to start businesses and jobs. We want made in Uganda, and really triggering that economic boon through the hemp industry there. So byproduct developers who have trade skills that can teach them to make soaps and really think outside of the box with how can they do it using the resources in their environment versus bringing in materials that would cost more for them. So really people that are creative and innovative, that can give them the knowledge to get them started, but also encouraging them to come to their own product development ideas as well. So those are some of the ways that could be helpful. We are focused on changing the mindset. And we don't want to put that dependency always on financial and having that need, because that keeps them in poverty. They're not really empowered to learn and grow on their own. So really teaching them to stand up for themselves, to take ownership in their future as well. But every project needs infrastructure. Every community needs infrastructure. We got it here in the US. We have access to loans. They don't have access to loans. There's some micro lending programs, but they can't even afford to come partially and meet them halfway at all, and so, there needs to be some funding invested. But we, again, want them to be able to utilize their own gifts and talents to grow themselves too. So just that's kind of a side note is I don't want to say that we're dumping, thousands or millions of dollars into this community to do this, and then we leave them and then, there's no more money coming in. It has to be grown from the inside out and not from the outside in.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, and again, it goes back to where is it the most impactful, right? Where, and it even, I think in everything, right? If we can't take care of our farmer, if we can't take care of our crop, we can't grow, we can't build and scale and provide all these ancillary jobs and businesses that come down the pipeline. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I love what
our communities are excited about it too. As soon as I started sharing with them, they feel like this is a blessing to have this new knowledge, and it gives them hope. And the people that I've worked with in communities there are incredibly smart. They're not empowered. They're not lifted up. And people need to continue to walk alongside of them once they come there to make sure that they're sustainable. So it is a commitment, but it's worth it. And for people that are interested in it, there's opportunities in the future that come out of these communities to buy their products for your local business, or it's sourced in Uganda. Maybe it has a different, power because it's grown in Uganda. Maybe it produces different results. Who knows? But I think that if people would, be open to investing time and knowledge into these communities that we're working in, it will be rewarding either way. It'll just be rewarding and feel good that you've helped somebody, but also to see them transform and change and come out of poverty as well. But it could be rewarding for your own business too. Trade opportunities in the future.
Oh, totally. Right. And things are shifting. I think there's the opportunity to scale and the opportunity to,
Yeah, absolutely.
Things are shifting for sure. Very, very cool. So what's been in doing all of this, the biggest impact for you?
The biggest impact for me, it's just feeling that I'm helping somebody, and I can take the knowledge that I've gained and use that knowledge to help somebody else. There's nothing really for me out of this. I'm a believer, so I believe that, I'm kind of serving what God would want me to do and helping others and loving thy neighbor. And, it's really, that's just what it's about. And being able to empower others to move forward. As a child, I was raised by a single mom, and it was built into us that we had to be responsible at an early age and learn and grow. And I can relate to some of the challenges that these communities are going through. Some of them, not all of them, but definitely if I can help in any way, change their lives, the world will just be a better place in general. But, it's really just wanting to pay it forward, everything that I've been given and I've learned, and the skills and knowledge, transferring that and helping others. And so, and it's also a beautiful place to visit. I want to travel the world and do this. So it's rewarding both ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I look at it. So what's been, would you say, the biggest challenge? Is it lack of education? Is it resources? What would you say?
It's a number of things. Yeah, it is lack of knowledge. It's definitely lack of resources, especially where we're at in the eastern side of the country. We are 8 hours from the main city. So extension workers and the agricultural programs in Uganda, while they are going through transformation, they're still underfunded. And so we are kind of trying to be an extension to the extension services. But it's knowledge, it's access to resources, it's mindset. They are in this mindset of feeling hopelessness. And it's never going to happen. So they've accepted their status. And so it takes a lot to really get them to, find that hope again. And so it's really a lot of, I don't want to say hand holding because that can sound bad, but it is really, hey, you guys can do this. Here's the knowledge. It's constantly communicating with them to make sure that they know that the future is available for them, but they also have to come to the table too. And so that's probably the hardest part is we're not just going in and planting things and growing things. We're changing the whole face of a community and even the mentality of the community as well too.
Yeah, exactly. Amanda just made a really good point. She said she loves this, ladies. We enjoy the foundation of the nation that people laid for us. We have the opportunity to pay that forward and help others lay their foundation.
Hey, Amanda. Amanda's got a great organization too. She's in and out of Uganda as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, she's definitely someone that has a big passion and heart for the people there.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, we're excited. She's gonna, we're partnering with another organization there that works specifically with women and children. And so we do have a women's empowerment program and we have a youth engagement program, but Amanda's also focused on empowering the communities there as well too. So
I love this. And what's even cooler is more and more women are making the change. Like I have become so passionate about I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, that maybe I was cold or just naive or not experienced. But hemp has opened up passions for supporting other women more, or women and children, or understanding the connectivity to food and to where my food comes from or where my clothing comes from, and
Yeah.
it. And so yeah, I just got a little bit giddy because it's exciting to see
Yeah.
in awesome
No.
organizations. And Dr. Hall, she said also soil food web is vital. Appreciates. She's a rock star, also has lots of good things going for animal health and
Awesome.
veterinarian. So she's awesome. And then John, I'd love to connect with you both and see where we can coordinate our efforts in Africa as well as the US.
Oh, yes, we would love that. Absolutely. And again, I'm learning. I mean, it's going to take, they say it takes a village to raise a child. It's going to take the whole world to bring even one community out of poverty. But this project here, I see, and I might be wrong, but I just see so much potential. I think others see it as well.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily feel completely crazy in doing this, but I just would love to put together a steering committee, a focus group that can help us think through what we want to try to accomplish and how we get there and doing that. And again, that's why I love, Mandi, what you're doing is you're providing that avenue for people to collaborate and think outside of the box and be strategic and to move all of this forward. And so
see,
yeah.
Every time I hear that phrase now, I'm like, what? I hear you.
Yeah. Definitely. So I would love. I mean, I'm a one-man shop right now, other than my team in Uganda and my board here, but I'm mainly a one-man shop. So I would love to have the help. I would love to have more brain power. I'm running out of it. But yeah, I would love to meet and collaborate and figure out how we can, help the communities, help the economy, and help the environment as well.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. I'm taking notes of things I'm going to do. You said steering committee, and I was like, wait, I love those words.
Yeah.
I love helping to collaborate. So what kind of support for hemp? Where do you feel like you could use the best guidance around the hemp specifically to move this project forward?
For hemp, I mean, again, I'm hoping people through GHA will be willing to invest in this project, if not financially, with their knowledge. And then again, it's really even getting people over to the communities to at least put their eyes on what they would be working with or working in. And then it's bringing more knowledge to the government. I think that could help them invest on the byproduct development side for commercial versus for the medicinal. So it's really just getting more people to kind of, advocate and sponsor the project.
Love it.
Yeah. I hope, did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a big question. There's a lot.
Yeah. Learn. Yeah, there's so much. And it's always like, we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yep.
And I think the big thing is looking at who in the industry and who in my network or our network as a community is looking to get into a smaller scale operation versus big scale operation, right? Are they looking for large, big agriculture, or like you said, smaller scale for potentially a bigger impact on small, right? And I can't even say bigger impact. They're two very different types of business, or two very different types of strategy, maybe.
Yeah. Now, one thing that does come to mind that we would have to work through, and this is where funding does come in. Farmers depend on their land as a source of income, and it's really just for food, right? I mean, they don't make enough to grow their household, put their kids in school or anything like that. They live day to day to try to just put food on their plates. And so when we go in to look at a community, there are some farmers that have a little bit more land than others, that have a little bit more stability than others, that we could tap into to do these trials. But one of the things that, I would need to think about is if we're going in and occupying a piece of land that generates income for them, that we would want to find a way to ensure that it's not taking away from them getting food on their plates.
Sure.
Or some do have some income to put their children in school, most don't. That it's not taking away from their children's, schooling funds. So it could be as simple as if we occupy their land, we sponsor their children's school for that year. We make sure they have food on their plate for that year. And a little bit goes a long way. $30 will feed a family of 10 in Uganda for about a month. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that's on post-human beans. That's not a very nutritious diet, but.
I get it. But if all that means is us skimming off the top, it's not taking a lot out of our pockets to make that type of impact. And that's like, I had a humbling moment, and I know my boy did when we were younger. We went somewhere and came back, and he said, I'm never ordering a $60 meal again. Now I know we can feed an orphanage for a day or for 2 days for $60. I'm not ever doing this again. And so those types of things, like, again, that disconnect of where we're at and how hard our life is compared to the reality of the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And
it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I mean, they have so much joy.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, literally, when we go there, we get handed chickens, and I don't want your chicken because that's food on your plate, but they want to give it to us. Yeah. And so you're gonna, I guarantee you, people have a hard time conceiving about what it's like to live there. And I know many people that will absolutely not go there because they can't take what they're going to see. And it is overwhelming at first, but when you meet the people, they're amazing. Sorry, it tears me up because I love my communities, and they just have so much to offer that is untapped. But
I want to say thank you. Thank you to those that go with a little bit less to provide and to help share and support, right? And so tell me again, how do people donate? If somebody wants to make a contribution, how do people donate to you?
Yeah, so you can donate through our website. We have also the link tree as well, but that can also be found through our website too. And so, there's plenty of different ways to tap in. We've outlined different programs. We have a Hemp for Hope. And basically there's a separate page on our website that talks about what we want to do with hemp. And we've got a separate donation link for that as well too. So if you want to make sure that you want to make sure that your money's going straight to what's going to be focused on with hemp, you can designate that through a separate link. Or if you just find the general donation and put in the comments, this is to help build the hemp program, we will make sure that happens. But through our website. And you can email me too if you shouldn't have an issue finding the website, but if you do, Mandi, you can throw my email out there. They can contact me through email, and I can point them that way.
Awesome. Okay, well, for anybody else that needs connections, Natasha's involved a lot in our association and on our calls, so I'd love to help make connections for you guys in some of these projects. And if you need help with a steering committee or getting some people to get involved, don't hesitate to holler at me.
Absolutely. Because if it works, and we're seeing results to be able to create that economy, that local economy, we call an economic boon, is that we want to replicate this into other impoverished farming communities. And so we don't want to just be in Uganda. And our team, I'm teaching them Learn, Grow, and Go. They also are inspired by the opportunity to go outside of their communities and teach others. So we're building a force, but we want to be able to start in Uganda and then test it and then grow it from there.
I love it. Learn, go, and grow. Learn, grow, and go.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And
thank you.
Shout out to Perky again for introducing us.
Hi, Perky. If
I got lucky enough yesterday to spend some time with her and talk to her a little bit. And so
she's so awesome.
Yes, she is.
I love her, and I love her heart, and I love what she's doing here in the U.S. with the Indian reservations.
Mhm.
I'm just so I mean, I had that as a part of one of my stateside missions was human trafficking, and then the reservations, and I'm just so inspired by the work that she's doing here too, and she's loved what we were doing, and so I just can't wait to continue to work with her and make both of our visions come true. So.
John, you're exactly right. I was going to actually correct her with the exact same phrase. You said, if it works. No, it's going to work. It is going to work, right? We speak it into it. So and it is. Like you said,
got some momentum.
Yeah. And this is not a new plant. It's not a new crop. Yeah. It's been around for years. We are new to it. And so really what
we're going to give credit where credit's due, right?
And bringing back opportunity, right? It's going to work. We're just going to build it out so that you are successful. And I'm happy to help and happy to have you on
and I'm so happy I connected with y'all. I'm so thankful for this time too. Thank you, Mandi. It means so much. And our communities are hopefully able to listen in. And so they're excited about this call as well too. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very, very much. And let's be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mandi. Bye, everybody.
Talk later.